Welcome to OLevels Economics Unit 7 Demand. When economists discuss demand, they are referring not just to people's desire for goods and services, but to what is called effective demand. Effective demand means the willingness and ability to buy a product. For demand to be effective, consumers must both want the product and have the financial means to purchase it. For example, a person might want a luxury car, but if they cannot afford to buy it, their demand is not effective. Firms are only interested in effective demand because it directly influences their sales and production decisions. The relationship between demand and price is one of the most fundamental principles in economics. It is described as an inverse relationship. As the price of a product increases, the quantity demanded decreases, and as the price decreases, the quantity demanded increases. When prices rise, fewer people can afford the product, and even those who can may become less willing to buy it, often turning to cheaper alternatives known as substitute goods. Conversely, when prices fall, more consumers can afford the product, and they are generally more inclined to purchase it. This pattern, where demand expands as price falls and contracts as price rises, is known as the law of demand. Economists study demand at two levels: individual demand and market demand. Individual demand refers to the quantity of a product that a single consumer is willing and able to buy at different price levels. Market demand, on the other hand, is the total demand for a product across all consumers in the market. It is calculated by summing up all individuals' demands at each price level, a process known as aggregation. Market demand, therefore, provides a broader picture of how much of a good or service the entire market is prepared to buy at different prices. A useful way to represent demand is through a demand schedule, which is a table showing the various quantities demanded at different prices over a given period. For example, consider this demand schedule for train tickets from station X to station Y. When the price is $50, 2,200 tickets are demanded. At $45, 2,500 tickets. At $40, 3,000 tickets. At $35, 3,800 tickets. At $30, 5,000 tickets, and at $25,000, 7,000 tickets. This clearly shows that as the price decreases, the quantity demanded increases, perfectly illustrating the law of demand. This information can also be displayed visually using a demand curve. On a graph, price is plotted on the vertical y-axis, while quantity demanded is plotted on the horizontal x-axis. The demand curve slopes downward from left to right, showing the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Sometimes, economists extend the curve to show extreme points, such as the price at which no one would buy the product or the quantity demanded if it were free. However, since prices rarely reach those extremes, demand curves are usually drawn within a realistic range. For simplicity, economists often draw demand curves as straight lines rather than smooth curves, but the relationship they represent remains the same. When the price of a product changes, the change in quantity demanded is shown by movement along the same demand curve. If the price falls, there is an extension or expansion of demand. Consumers buy more because the product is cheaper. If the price rises, there is a contraction of demand. Consumers buy less because the product is more expensive. These are changes in quantity demanded, not in demand itself, since the only factor changing is the product's price. However, price is not the only factor that affects demand. Sometimes, demand changes even when price remains constant. These changes are caused by what economists call the conditions of demand. A change in any of these conditions causes the entire demand curve to shift. When more is demanded at every price, the demand curve shifts to the right, showing an increase in demand. When less is demanded at every price, the curve shifts to the left, showing a decrease in demand. For example, during hot weather, demand for ice cream tends to rise even if prices remain unchanged. This means that at every price level, people buy more ice cream, shifting the curve to the right. Conversely, during cold weather, fewer people want ice cream, and the demand curve shifts left. Several key factors can cause these shifts in demand. Changes in income. When people's incomes increase, they generally buy more goods and services because they have greater purchasing power. For most products, this creates a positive relationship between income and demand. These products are known as normal goods. However, for some goods, demand decreases as income rises. These are called inferior goods. For instance, people might buy fewer instant noodles or second-hand clothes as their income grows, switching instead to higher quality alternatives. Changes in the prices of related goods. Demand can also be affected by changes in the prices of substitute or complementary goods. Substitutes are products that can replace each other, such as tea and coffee or butter and margarine. If the price of one substitute rises, consumers may switch to the other, increasing its demand. Complements are products that are used together, like cars and petrol, or smartphones and data plans. If the price of a complement falls, the demand for the related product usually rises as well. Advertising and marketing. A successful advertising campaign can significantly increase demand for a product by making more people aware of it, or by influencing their preferences. Advertising can encourage new consumers to try a product or persuade existing consumers to buy more of it. In some cases, effective marketing can even create entirely new markets for products that previously had little demand. Changes in population. The overall size and composition of a population affect market demand. An increase in population means more consumers, which usually leads to higher demand for most goods and services. Changes in the age structure of a population can also alter demand patterns. For instance, an aging population increases demand for healthcare products and mobility aids, while reducing demand for children's toys and baby products. Changes in tastes and fashion. Consumer preferences are not static. They change over time due to trends, technological innovations, health awareness, and cultural influences. For example, the growing popularity of vegetarianism and veganism has decreased demand for meat, while the rise in health conscious lifestyles has increased demand for organic foods. Similarly, fashion trends can greatly influence the demand for clothing styles, footwear, and accessories. Other external factors. A wide range of other elements can also influence demand. Weather conditions can affect the demand for products like ice cream, umbrellas, and seasonal clothing. Expectations of future prices can influence current demand. For example, if people expect the price of oil to rise in the future, they may buy more now. Special events such as festivals, sports tournaments, or international expos can temporarily boost demand for certain products or services. For example, the 2016 Summer Olympics in Rio led to an increase in demand for travel to Brazil. In summary, demand represents both the willingness and the ability to purchase goods and services. There is an inverse relationship between price and demand. As price falls, demand increases, and as price rises, demand decreases. The demand schedule and demand curve are tools used to represent this relationship. A change in price causes movement along the curve, leading to an extension or contraction in demand. However, a change in any other factor, such as income, population, tastes, advertising, or the prices of related goods, causes the entire demand curve to shift. When demand increases, the curve shifts to the right, and when demand decreases, it shifts to the left. Thanks for watching.